I'm Amelia Cooper, 34 years old, and I never thought I'd be fighting for my life twice in 1 year, not just against the heart condition that's plagued me since birth, but against the betrayal of my husband Derek. The man who stole $75,000 meant for my life-saving surgery to take his mistress to Bali. The man who told me I was better off dead. What he never expected was who would be waiting for him at the airport when he returned. If you're watching this, let me know where you're from in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories of survival against all odds. My life before all this chaos was pretty normal. I'd built a successful career as a graphic designer with a roster of loyal clients who appreciated my eye for detail and creativity. I worked hard to establish myself in a competitive industry, and by my late 20s I was finally enjoying the fruits of my labor with financial stability and creative fulfillment. I was independent, ambitious, and content with my life. That all changed when I met Derek at my friend Taylor's gallery opening 8 years ago. He was tall, charming, and had this infectious laugh that made everyone around him smile. Derek worked in finance, managing investments for wealthy clients. He approached me while I was examining a particularly striking photograph, and we ended up talking for hours about art, ambition, and our dreams for the future. "I've never met anyone who sees the world quite like you do," he told me that night, his eyes never leaving mine. "It's refreshing to meet someone so passionate about their craft." Our connection was immediate and intense. After exchanging numbers, we went on our first date just 2 days later. Derek was attentive, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in my work and my thoughts. Within months, we were inseparable. He would surprise me with little gifts that showed he paid attention to the details of my life, like my favorite coffee beans or art supplies. I had mentioned wanting to try. "You make me want to be better," Derek would say, holding my hand across dinner tables or while walking through the park. "You challenge me in all the right ways." After a year of dating, Derek proposed during a weekend trip to a beachside cottage. It wasn't extravagant or showy, just the two of us walking along the shore at sunset when he dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring that perfectly matched my understated style. I said yes without hesitation, certain I had found my partner for life. Our wedding was small but beautiful, with only our closest friends and family in attendance. Derek's parents welcomed me warmly into their family, and my brother Michael, though hesitant about the speed of our relationship, gave his blessing after seeing how happy Derek made me. The first 3 years of our marriage were truly blissful. We moved into a cozy apartment in the city, close enough to both our workplaces that we could meet for lunch occasionally. We supported each other's careers wholeheartedly, with Derek celebrating each new client I landed, and me cheering his promotions and successes at the investment firm. We talked about starting a family eventually, but agreed to focus on our careers first, saving money, and establishing ourselves professionally. We were a team, partners in everything, and I felt secure in our love and our future together. Then came the first signs of my heart condition. Initially, I dismissed the occasional fatigue and shortness of breath as stress from deadlines or not getting enough sleep. When I mentioned it to Derek, he suggested I cut back on caffeine and try to get more rest. "You push yourself too hard, Amelia," he said, massaging my shoulders one evening after I came home particularly exhausted. "Maybe take on fewer clients for a while." But the symptoms persisted and worsened. One day, while walking up the stairs to our apartment, I became so dizzy and short of breath that I had to sit down in the stairwell for nearly 20 minutes before I could continue. When I told Derek, he insisted I see a doctor. The first doctor diagnosed me with anxiety and prescribed some breathing exercises and medication. But the symptoms only grew worse over the next few months. I started experiencing chest pain and palpitations that would leave me gasping for breath. Everything came to a head when I collapsed during a client presentation at work. One minute I was explaining my design concept, and the next the room was spinning, my heart racing erratically in my chest. I woke up in an ambulance with paramedics hovering over me, attaching monitors to my chest and starting an IV. Derek met me at the hospital, his face pale with worry. This led to a series of tests, specialist referrals, and finally a proper diagnosis. I had a congenital heart condition that had gone undetected throughout my childhood and early adulthood. The cardiologist explained that I needed a specialized surgery to repair my heart, but it wasn't immediately urgent if we monitored the condition closely. "You're lucky," Dr. Johnson said. "Many people with your condition don't get diagnosed until it's too late. We've caught it at a stage where intervention can be very successful." The relief of having an explanation for my symptoms was quickly overshadowed by the realization of what this meant financially. Our insurance would only cover about 60% of the procedure, leaving us responsible for $75,000. It was a staggering amount, but Derek didn't hesitate. "We'll figure it out," he promised, squeezing my hand as we left the cardiologist's office. "Your health comes first, always." And so we made a plan. We would cut unnecessary expenses, take on extra work when possible, and set aside a dedicated savings account for the surgery. Derek even sold his beloved vintage motorcycle, saying my heart was worth more than any possession. I continued working despite my health challenges, though I had to be careful not to overexert myself. Some days were better than others, but I was determined to contribute to our surgery fund. Derek tracked our progress with a spreadsheet, updating it weekly to show how much closer we were getting to our goal. 2 years, he estimated. If we stay on track, we can have the full amount in 2 years. I clung to that timeline, marking days off on a calendar, watching our savings grow. For a while, it seemed like we were facing this challenge together, united against this unexpected obstacle in our path. Little did I know that while I was fighting for my life, Derek was planning his escape. The first signs that something was off appeared gradually, so subtle that I almost missed them. Derek started working later hours, claiming big projects at the firm needed his attention. Our dinner conversations, once filled with details about our days, became superficial. He would ask about my health, but his eyes would drift to his phone, fingers tapping impatiently. "Sorry, work is just crazy right now," became his constant refrain. "This client is demanding a lot of attention." I tried to be understanding. After all, one of us needed to maintain a full work schedule to reach our savings goal. But then came the business trips that seemed to multiply. Before my diagnosis, Derek traveled maybe once every few months. Now it was becoming a monthly occurrence. "The firm is expanding," he explained. "They need me to meet with potential clients in different cities." I would have believed him completely if not for the small inconsistencies that began to appear. Once he mentioned staying at the Marriott in Chicago, but the receipt that fell from his suit jacket when I was doing laundry was from the Ritz-Carlton. Another time he said his flight landed at 8, but when I checked our shared calendar to add the information, I saw it was actually scheduled for 6. Then there were the credit card charges I couldn't explain. A jewelry store, when it wasn't near any of our birthdays or anniversaries. An upscale restaurant in town on a night he claimed to be working late. When I asked about these, his explanations came too quickly, too rehearsed. The jewelry was a retirement gift for my boss's wife from the whole office. The restaurant charge was a client dinner I forgot to submit for reimbursement. As my health deteriorated, Derek became less attentive to my needs. He would forget to pick up my medications. He started missing my doctor appointments, always with a last-minute work emergency as the excuse. The Derek who had once promised to be by my side through everything was fading away, replaced by a distracted, irritable stranger. One evening while doing laundry, I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his dress shirt. It was distinctive, expensive smelling, nothing like the simple scents I preferred. My stomach knotted as I brought the fabric to my nose, inhaling the undeniable evidence of another woman. When I confronted him, Derek's face contorted with annoyance. "That's probably Sandra from accounting. She's always hugging everyone in the office. You know how she is." But I didn't know Sandra from accounting. I had never met her or heard her name before that moment. "You're being paranoid, Amelia." Derek continued, taking the shirt from my hands. "It's probably the medication affecting your thinking. Dr. Johnson mentioned paranoia could be a side effect, remember?" Dr. Johnson had said no such thing, but Derek stated it with such confidence that I found myself second-guessing my own memory. My best friend Jessica was the first to voice what I had been afraid to consider. We were having coffee while Derek was supposedly at a weekend conference in Boston. I don't want to upset you, Jessica said cautiously, but have you considered that Derek might be seeing someone else? He wouldn't do that, I protested immediately. Not now, not with everything we're going through. Jessica reached for my hand. Men can be selfish, Amelia, especially when faced with a partner's illness. Some can't handle the stress or the change in dynamic. I defended Derek vigorously, insisting that our relationship was just strained by my health issues and financial pressure. But Jessica's words planted a seed of doubt that I couldn't quite shake. Our 7th wedding anniversary should have been a chance to reconnect. I spent the day preparing a special dinner, pushing through fatigue to create Derek's favorite meal. I set the table with our wedding china and candles, hoping to recapture some of the magic we seemed to have lost. Derek arrived home late, barely apologetic. Throughout dinner, his attention was divided, his eyes frequently checking his phone despite my request that we focus on each other for just one evening. "I'm sorry, but I'm expecting an important email about the Henderson account," he said, not looking up from the screen. Halfway through dessert, his phone buzzed. "I have to take this," he said, already standing. "It's work." He stepped into our bedroom, closing the door behind him. When he emerged 20 minutes later, he was wearing a jacket. "I have to go to the office," he announced, keys already in hand. "Henderson is threatening to pull his investment if we don't resolve this tonight. Don't wait up." I sat alone at our anniversary table, candles burning down, feeling more alone than I ever had in our marriage. The next morning, while looking for a receipt in our car, I found a woman's earring wedged between the passenger seat and center console. It was elegant, expensive-looking, a teardrop diamond that caught the light when I held it up. I was still staring at it when Derek came out to the driveway. "What's that?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "I was hoping you could tell me," I replied, holding out the earring. Derek barely glanced at it before answering. "Must belong to Leslie. I gave her a ride to a client meeting last week when her car was in the shop." Another name I'd never heard before. Another explanation that came too easily. As my health continued to deteriorate, I had to reduce my work hours, which only increased the financial pressure on us. I was taking more medications, seeing doctors more frequently, and the cost of managing my condition while saving for surgery was becoming overwhelming. Through it all, Derek grew more distant, spending less time at home and becoming increasingly secretive about his whereabouts. Our surgery fund continued to grow, but our marriage was disintegrating before my eyes, and I felt powerless to stop it. I'll never forget the morning everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday, unseasonably cold for April. I woke up early, my chest tight with the familiar discomfort that had become my constant companion. Derek's side of the bed was empty, but that wasn't unusual anymore. He often left for work before I woke up, claiming early meetings. Something compelled me to check our surgery fund that morning. Maybe it was the dream I'd had where I was searching for something precious that kept slipping through my fingers. Or maybe it was simply that we were approaching our goal, and I wanted the reassurance of seeing the number that represented my future, my survival. I logged into our joint savings account, expecting to see the balance of just over $75,000 we'd painstakingly accumulated over the past 22 months. Instead, the screen showed a balance of $732.28. I stared at the number, blinking, certain there was some mistake. I logged out and back in again. The number didn't change. With trembling fingers, I checked the transaction history. 2 days ago, there had been a withdrawal of $74,500 approved by Derek. My heart began to race, triggering a cascade of palpitations that left me gasping. I fumbled for my phone, dialing Derek's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried his office line with the same result. I sent text after text, each more desperate than the last. "Where are you? What happened to our savings? Please call me. It's an emergency." With no response from Derek, I called the bank directly, my voice shaking as I explained the situation to the customer service representative. "Yes, Mrs. Cooper. I can confirm that withdrawal was made in person by the joint account holder, Mr. Cooper. He provided proper identification and authorization. Is there a problem with the transaction? He took all our money without telling me. I managed to say through rising panic. That money was for my heart surgery. There was an uncomfortable pause. I'm very sorry to hear that, Mrs. Cooper, but as a joint account holder, Mr. Cooper has full legal access to those funds. There's nothing the bank can do. I hung up and sat in stunned silence, trying to process what was happening. That's when I noticed the note on the kitchen counter, half hidden under a magazine. Derek's handwriting hasty and scrawled. Amelia had to leave for an emergency business trip. We'll explain everything when I get back. Don't worry about the account, just a temporary transfer. Love D. It was the Love D that broke me. Such a casual sign-off after stealing the money that was meant to save my life. In a daze, I walked to our home office and opened our shared laptop. Derek usually kept it password protected for his work documents, but he'd apparently left in too much of a hurry to lock it properly. I went straight to the trash folder in his email, a habit I'd developed during the past months of suspicion. There they were, deleted emails that told the real story, flight confirmations, hotel bookings, restaurant reservations. Not for a business trip, but for a luxury vacation at the Bali Four Seasons Resort. And not just for Derek, but for two people. I clicked on the hotel reservation, and there it was in black and white, Mr. Derek Cooper and Ms. Natalie Wright. Natalie, his assistant, the young, vivacious blonde who had started at his firm about a year ago. I'd met her once at the company Christmas party, and had noticed how Derek's eyes followed her across the room, but I'd dismissed it as nothing. With shaking hands, I searched Natalie's name on social media. Her Instagram profile was public, and the most recent post made my blood run cold. A selfie taken in an airport lounge caption reading, Bali bound, 2 weeks in paradise, starts now, #blessed, #vacation, #deserved. The timestamp was from yesterday. I was still staring at her perfectly filtered face when my phone rang. Derek. I answered immediately. Where is the money, Derek? I asked, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm raging inside me. There was a pause, then a sigh. I was going to call you once we landed. You and Natalie. Another pause. You've been checking up on me. Not a denial. Not even surprise. You stole my surgery money to take your mistress to Bali. I stated it as the fact it was. Money that we saved for 2 years. Money that I need to live. It's not like that, Amelia. I was going to replace it. With what, Ow? My voice was rising now, the calm evaporating. That money took us 2 years to save. I can't do this anymore, Derek suddenly shouted. Do you know what it's been like watching you get sicker, having our whole lives revolve around your health? Every conversation, every decision, everything about your damn heart condition. I was speechless, the phone nearly slipping from my grasp. I'm 36 years old, Amelia. I deserve to enjoy my life. Natalie makes me happy. She's healthy. She's pregnant. That last word hit me like a physical blow. Pregnant. You're leaving me because I'm sick, I whispered, and stealing my surgery money to start your new family. The doctors said you might need more surgeries after this one anyway. It might never end. And for what? A few more years of being half alive. Maybe you're better off dead than living as a burden to everyone around you. Better off dead. My husband of 7 years had just told me I was better off dead. The phone slipped from my fingers as the room began to spin. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The last thing I remember was reaching for my emergency medication as my vision tunneled to blackness. I woke up in the hospital, Jessica sitting beside my bed. Apparently she'd been trying to reach me, and when I didn't answer, she came to check on me. She found me unconscious on the floor and called an ambulance. Derek emptied our surgery account. I told her, my voice hoarse. He took the money and went to Bali with his assistant. She's supposedly pregnant. Jessica's expression shifted from concern to rage. That son of a bitch, I'm calling Michael. My brother Michael had never fully warmed to Derek, sensing something beneath the charming exterior that made him uneasy. As a corporate attorney in another state, we didn't see each other often, but we remained close. Jessica put the call on speaker. He did what? Michael's incredulous voice filled the hospital room. "Tell me exactly what happened, Amelia. Every detail." As I recounted the morning's events, Jessica helped me document everything, taking pictures of the note Derek left, the bank statement, and the emails I'd found. The doctor came in during this process, his expression grave as he checked my vitals. "Mrs. Cooper, this kind of stress is extremely dangerous given your condition," Dr. Turner warned. "Your heart can't handle these episodes. We need to get your surgery scheduled as soon as possible. The longer we wait, the higher the risk." "The money's gone," I said, tears finally coming. "He took it all." Jessica squeezed my hand while Michael's voice came through the phone, steady and determined. "I'm booking a flight now. I'll be there tonight. Amelia, listen to me. What Derek did is not just morally reprehensible, it's criminal. We're going to fight this and we're going to win." I wanted to believe him, but in that moment, all I could feel was betrayal, abandonment, and the very real fear that my husband's actions might actually fulfill his cruel prediction that I was better off dead. 3 days after Derek stole our surgery money, I was discharged from the hospital with strict orders to rest and avoid stress, a laughable instruction given my circumstances. Jessica insisted I stay with her, rather than return to the empty house filled with memories and betrayal. "We need a plan," she said as she helped me settle into her guest room. "Michael lands in 2 hours and he's bringing someone with him." That someone turned out to be Sam Greenfield, a longtime friend of Michael's and one of the top financial fraud attorneys in the country. The four of us gathered around Jessica's dining table that evening, the beginning of what would become our war council. What Derek did constitutes theft, fraud, and possibly financial abuse. Sam explained, his tone professional but kind. The fact that it was a joint account complicates things legally, but the circumstances create a compelling case. Michael was more direct. "We're going to nail this bastard to the wall, Amelia. No one does this to my sister." Seeing my usually calm, measured brother so enraged was both shocking and comforting. For the first time since finding the empty account, I felt a flicker of hope. "First," Sam continued, "we need to secure what assets remain. Do you have access to any other accounts? Credit cards, investment portfolios?" I shook my head. "Derek handled most of our finances. He said it made sense since he works in finance." Sam and Michael exchanged knowing looks. "Classic financial control tactic," Sam noted. "Let's start by getting a complete picture of your joint assets." Over the next 24 hours, we discovered the extent of Derek's deception. With the help of a financial forensic expert Sam brought in, we uncovered hidden accounts, assets I never knew existed, and a pattern of financial movements that suggested Derek had been planning this for months, gradually transferring small amounts to accounts in his name only. "He's been bleeding your joint assets for at least 8 months, the forensic accountant reported. The surgery fund was just the final largest withdrawal. We also found evidence that Natalie wasn't Derek's only affair. Credit card statements revealed hotel charges in cities where he claimed to be alone on business restaurant bills for 2 at intimate establishments, and gifts purchased that I had never received. "Natalie is just the latest," Jessica said, scrolling through credit card statements. "Look at these charges from last summer. You were in the hospital for those tests, and he was buying lingerie at La Perla." The betrayal cut deeper with each discovery, but it also fueled my determination. This wasn't just about a husband leaving his sick wife. This was about a calculated, deliberate plan to exploit and abandon me when I was at my most vulnerable. With Sam's guidance, we filed emergency injunctions to freeze Derek's remaining accessible assets. The police report for theft and financial fraud was more challenging as officers initially viewed it as a civil matter between spouses. But Sam's expertise and persistence got it filed. "We're also going to pursue emergency spousal support given your medical condition," Sam explained. "A judge will likely be sympathetic to your situation." Meanwhile, Michael set up an online crowdfunding campaign explaining my situation, careful to protect my privacy, while sharing enough details to garner support. The response was overwhelming. Former clients, college friends, colleagues, and even strangers touched by my story contributed. Within a week, the campaign had raised nearly $30,000 toward my surgery. Derek's company launched an internal investigation after Michael contacted them with evidence of Derek's misuse of company resources to conduct his affairs, including using business trips as cover and having Natalie travel with him on the company's dime. Throughout this whirlwind of legal and financial activity, my health continued to deteriorate. 2 weeks after Derek left, I experienced a cardiac episode that sent me back to the emergency room. Dr. Turner was blunt during his examination. "Amelia, we're running out of time. Your heart can't sustain this level of stress. We need to schedule the surgery within the next month, ideally sooner." "We don't have all the money yet," I admitted. "We'll figure something out," Michael promised. "Maybe the hospital has payment plans or financial assistance." As we left the hospital, Jessica's phone pinged with a social media notification. Well, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "Looks like the happy couple is cutting their vacation short." She showed me the screen, a post from Natalie. "Heading home early. Paradise isn't what it seemed. Lesson learned, trust your instincts. They're coming back." I said, my heart rate accelerating again. Michael's expression turned calculating. "When exactly?" A quick search revealed Derek and Natalie's return flight scheduled to arrive in 3 days. That information became the catalyst for the next phase of our plan, one that would ultimately deliver the justice I desperately needed. As we drove away from the hospital, I could see Michael's mind working, his expression shifting from concern to determination. "I know that look," I said. "You're planning something." Michael glanced at me, then at Jessica in the rearview mirror. "What would you say to meeting Derek at the airport when he returns?" "Absolutely not," Jessica protested immediately. "Amelia needs rest, not a confrontation with that snake." But something inside me resonated with Michael's suggestion. After weeks of feeling helpless and victimized, the idea of facing Derek, of looking him in the eye, when he realized his actions had consequences, was incredibly appealing. "I want to do it," I said firmly. "I want to see his face when he realizes he can't just abandon me and walk away with my surgery money." Back at Jessica's apartment, Michael laid out his plan. We would not only confront Derek at the airport, but coordinate with the police to have him arrested there for the financial fraud and theft charges we'd filed. Sam advised that having the confrontation in a public place with witnesses would also strengthen our case. "We'll need to document everything," Sam explained. "I suggest wearing a discreet recording device to capture any admissions he might make." "Won't he just deny everything?" Jessica asked. "Not if he's caught off guard," Michael replied. "People tend to react emotionally when surprised, often revealing more than they intend to." We spent the next day preparing. Sam arranged for a voice recorder disguised as a necklace pendant, testing it to ensure it would capture conversations clearly in a noisy airport environment. Michael coordinated with the police detective assigned to my case, who agreed to have officers ready at the terminal. The night before the airport confrontation, doubt began to creep in. I sat on the edge of Jessica's guest bed, my hands trembling slightly as I took my evening medications. "What if this makes everything worse?" I asked when Jessica came to check on me. "What if it triggers another episode?" Jessica sat beside me, taking my hand. "You don't have to do this, Amelia. We can let the police handle it." "No," I said after a moment. "I need to do this. Not just for the legal case, but for me. I need Derek to see me, to know that he didn't destroy me." Jessica squeezed my hand. "Then we'll make sure you're protected every step of the way." The next morning brought an unexpected development. A journalist from a local news outlet contacted Michael through the crowdfunding page, asking to cover my story. "Someone tipped them off about the confrontation at the airport," Michael explained, showing me the email. "They want to document it." Who would know about our plans? I wondered. The answer came later that day in a text message from an unknown number. "I work with Derek. He's been bragging about how he outsmarted his sick wife. What he did to you is disgusting. I told a reporter friend to be at Terminal C tomorrow at 3 p.m. "Seems like not everyone at Derek's firm appreciates his behavior," Jessica remarked when I showed her the message. This new development led to another idea. If the confrontation was going to be public, possibly even making local news, Why not ensure Derek faced social consequences as well as legal ones? I suggested contacting Derek's parents, who had always been kind to me, and who, according to my last holiday card from them, still had no idea about our separation. He told them I left him, I realized as I dialed their number. He's been lying to everyone. The conversation with my in-laws was heart-wrenching. They were shocked and horrified by their son's actions, having believed his story that I had left the marriage due to personal issues. When I explained about the stolen surgery fund, and Natalie Derek's mother broke down in tears. "We'll be there tomorrow," she promised. "This isn't how we raised him." Our final surprising ally came through Natalie's social media. A quick search revealed she was married, a detail she had apparently concealed from Derek. Her husband James was easily found and contacted. He was devastated to learn of his wife's affair and agreed to meet us at the airport as well. He claims he had no idea she was with a married man, Michael told me after speaking with James. Says Derek told her you two were already separated when they started seeing each other. The night before the airport confrontation, I experienced another cardiac episode, this one severe enough that Jessica insisted on taking me to the emergency room. Turner was on call and not pleased to see me back so soon. "Whatever you're doing, it's not helping your heart," he admonished, after stabilizing my condition. "This surgery can't wait much longer, Amelia." "Just one more day," I pleaded. "There's something I need to do tomorrow, then I promise I'll focus entirely on getting better." Dr. Turner looked skeptical but relented. "One more day. Then we need to talk seriously about scheduling this procedure with or without the full payment up front." Back at Jessica's, Michael suggested I reconsider the confrontation given my latest episode. "Your health comes first," he insisted. "We can handle Derek without you there." But I was more determined than ever. "I need to do this," I told him. "Not just for the case, but for me. I need closure before I can focus on healing." Michael reluctantly agreed, but insisted on additional precautions, including having a private nurse accompany us to the airport and remain with me throughout the confrontation. We spent the rest of the evening coordinating everyone's positions and timing for maximum impact when Derek and Natalie emerged from their flight. As I finally lay down to sleep that night, exhaustion overtaking my anxious mind, I touched the pendant recorder around my neck, a tangible reminder that tomorrow, for the first time since Derek's betrayal, I would be taking action instead of merely reacting. Tomorrow, I would reclaim some of the power he had stolen from me, along with my surgery fund. The day of the airport confrontation dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. As Jessica helped me dress in a simple but dignified outfit, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face was thinner than it had been a month ago, with dark circles under my eyes, testifying to weeks of stress and poor sleep. But there was something else there too, a determination I hadn't seen in myself for a long time. "You look strong," Jessica said, meeting my eyes in the mirror. "No matter what happens today, remember that you survived what was meant to break you." The drive to the airport was mostly silent, everyone lost in their own thoughts. Michael reviewed the plan one final time as we pulled into the short-term parking garage. "Derek and Natalie land at 3:15. They'll come through Terminal C arrivals. Sam and the police officers will be positioned near the exit doors. James will wait near the coffee shop with a clear view of the arrivals gate. Derek's parents will approach from the opposite side near the currency exchange. Amelia, you'll be in the wheelchair at the central meeting point with Jessica and me flanking you. The nurse will stay close by monitoring your condition." My heartbeat quickened, but not from my condition, from anticipation. After weeks of feeling powerless, I was about to confront the man who had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. We arrived at our positions with 30 minutes to spare. The airport buzzed with the usual activity travelers rushing to and from gates, emotional reunions, tearful goodbyes, none of them aware of the drama about to unfold in their midst. I spotted the local news reporter and cameraman setting up discreetly near a column, attempting to blend in with the crowd. At precisely 3:17, the arrival board updated to show that Derek and Natalie's flight had landed. 20 minutes later, passengers began streaming through the arrival doors. I gripped the arms of the wheelchair, scanning each face that emerged. And then there they were. Derek looked tanned and relaxed, designer sunglasses perched on his head, rolling an expensive suitcase with one hand, the other placed possessively on Natalie's lower back. Natalie was laughing at something he said, her blonde hair catching the fluorescent lights of the terminal. They looked like any couple returning from a romantic vacation, not a man who had stolen his dying wife's surgery money, and the woman who had helped him do it. The moment Derek spotted me sitting in the wheelchair, his step faltered. The color drained from his face as his eyes darted around, taking in Michael and Jessica beside me, clearly searching for an escape route. Natalie, sensing his sudden tension, followed his gaze to me. Her laughter died, instantly replaced by an expression of pure panic. "Derek," I called, my voice steady and clear. "Welcome home." Natalie immediately tried to step away to distance herself from the situation, but was stopped short by James appearing at her side. "Natalie," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Surprise." "James," she gasped. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," he replied. "Especially since you told me you were on a business training retreat." Derek attempted to take control of the situation, plastering on a confident smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Amelia, this is unexpected. I was planning to call you once I got settled." "Like you called me before emptying our joint account?" I asked, loud enough for nearby travelers to turn and stare. "Before stealing the money for my heart surgery." "You're making a scene," Derek hissed, stepping closer. "This is a private matter." "Private," another voice joined the confrontation as Derek's parents approached from behind him. "Is that why you lied to us too, Derek? Told us Amelia had left you." Derek spun around, genuine shock registering on his face as he saw his parents. "Mom. Dad. What are you doing here?" "We came to see what kind of man our son has become," his father said. Disappointment evident in every word. "Not the one we raised, apparently." Derek's composure began to crack. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting between all the faces surrounding him. "This is ridiculous. You're all overreacting. I was going to replace the money." "With what?" Michael demanded. "And when after Amelia died waiting for the surgery, you knew she needed—" Derek's face darkened with anger. "You don't understand. Do you know what it's been like living with someone who's always sick, always needing something? I deserve a life too." "So you stole from me," I said, reaching for the pendant around my neck, "and told me I was better off dead than living as a burden." Derek's eyes widened as I pressed the button on the recorder, and his own voice filled the space between us. "Maybe you're better off dead than living as a burden to everyone around you." The crowd that had gathered gasped. Derek's mother covered her mouth in horror. Natalie took a step away from Derek as if trying to physically distance herself from his cruelty. "You said that to her?" Derek's father asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "To Amelia." Derek's face contorted with rage. "She edited that, took it out of context." He pointed an accusing finger at me. "You're trying to ruin me because you can't accept that I found someone better." Natalie's head snapped toward Derek. "Better? You told me she left you. You said your marriage was over months ago and she moved out." "He lied to you too." I told her. "We were together until he stole my surgery money and left for Bali with you." "Surgery money?" Natalie repeated, looking increasingly horrified. "What surgery money?" "The $75,000 we saved for her heart surgery." Derek's mother answered, her voice thick with emotion. "The surgery she needs to live." Natalie turned to Derek, disbelief written across her face. "You told me that money was from your investment bonus." The situation deteriorated rapidly for Derek as two uniformed police officers approached, flanking Sam, who carried a folder of documents. "Derek Cooper," one officer asked. "Yes," Derek answered automatically, still trying to process the unraveling of his carefully constructed lies. "You're under arrest for grand theft and financial fraud," the officer continued, producing handcuffs. "This is absurd," Derek shouted, creating even more of a scene. "That was a joint account. My name was on it too." "The fraud charges relate to your documented intent," Sam explained calmly, opening his folder. You explicitly told Mrs. Cooper the money was for her medical procedure, created documented savings plans specifically for that purpose, then used it for personal entertainment with the express knowledge that withholding those funds could result in severe harm or death. As the officers began reading Derek his rights, Natalie backed further away. You told me she was lying about being sick to manipulate you, she said, her voice shaking. You said it was all in her head. Natalie, baby, don't do this, Derek pleaded. Everything I did was for us, for our baby. James let out a bitter laugh. What baby? Natalie can't have children. She had a hysterectomy 3 years ago. Derek's face went slack with shock. What? More lies, I said quietly. Seems like you're both good at those. The camera crew had captured everything, the reporter discreetly narrating the unfolding drama. Derek noticed them for the first time and lunged in their direction. Stop filming, you can't air this. His sudden movement and shouting triggered a wave of dizziness for me. The stress of the confrontation combined with my condition was taking its toll. I gripped the arms of the wheelchair as my vision began to blur around the edges. Amelia! Jessica's concerned voice seemed to come from far away. Nurse, something's wrong. The private nurse was at my side, instantly checking my pulse and blood pressure. Her heart rate is too high. We need to get her out of here. Through the encroaching fog, I saw the officers leading Derek away in handcuffs, his protests fading as the distance between us grew. Natalie stood frozen, caught between her furious husband and the retreating figure of her lover, the fantasy vacation and relationship both shattered beyond repair. Derek's parents approached my wheelchair as the nurse prepared to move me. His mother knelt beside me, taking my hand. We had no idea, Amelia. Please believe that. We'll make this right somehow. I wanted to respond to tell her it wasn't her fault, but the words wouldn't come. The last thing I remember was Michael's voice, urgent and afraid, calling my name as paramedics rushed toward us, and the strange sense of vindication mingling with exhaustion as consciousness slipped away. 3 months after the airport confrontation, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, feeling the steady, strong beat of my repaired heart. The surgery had been successful beyond my doctor's expectations, giving me a second chance at life in more ways than one. The path to this peaceful moment had been anything but straightforward. After collapsing at the airport, I'd been rushed to the hospital in critical condition, my heart finally pushed beyond its limits by the stress and emotion of confronting Derek. Dr. Turner had no choice but to perform the surgery immediately despite the outstanding financial questions. We'll figure out the money later, he'd told my terrified brother and Jessica. Right now, we need to save her life. What none of us knew then was that Derek's parents had already contacted the hospital's financial department. They paid for my entire surgery plus additional costs for recovery and rehabilitation. We can't undo what our son did, Derek's father told me when I awoke after the procedure, but we can try to make amends for the pain he caused you. Their kindness was the first in a series of unexpected blessings that emerged from the ashes of my marriage. The legal proceedings against Derek moved swiftly, helped by the overwhelming evidence and his public admissions at the airport, which had indeed made local news and gone viral online. The court ordered him to repay everything he had stolen, plus substantial damages for emotional distress and punitive fees. Derek faced multiple fraud charges beyond what he'd done to me. The investigation into his professional conduct revealed a pattern of ethical violations and misappropriation of client funds, leading to his termination and additional criminal charges. Last I heard, he was facing up to 5 years in prison. The crowdfunding campaign Michael had started eventually raised over $100,000, which, after covering my remaining medical expenses, I used to establish a foundation for cardiac patients facing financial barriers to treatment. It became my new purpose, transforming my trauma into something that could help others. Jessica had been my rock throughout recovery, staying with me during those first critical weeks when even the simplest tasks were exhausting. But she had her own surprising development to share. She and Michael, thrown together by my crisis, had developed feelings for each other. Their relationship was new and cautious, but watching them together brought me genuine happiness. Are you really okay with this? Jessica had asked nervously when they finally told me. More than okay, I'd assured her. After seeing so much betrayal, watching two people I love find joy together is the best medicine I could ask for. My career took a new direction as well. While I still did graphic design work for select clients, I also became an advocate for patients' rights and healthcare reform, sharing my story at conferences and in articles. The woman who had once designed logos and websites now designed campaigns to help others access life-saving care. One unexpected outcome of my ordeal was the support group that formed organically among people who reached out after seeing my story in the news. Men and women who had experienced similar betrayals during health crises found connection and healing together, meeting monthly in a community center near my new apartment. 6 weeks after my surgery, I received a letter from the county jail where Derek awaited trial. His handwriting, once so familiar, now seemed like that of a stranger. Dear Amelia, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I was selfish and cruel. The things I said, the way I treated you, they haunt me every day. What I did was unforgivable. I threw away something precious out of fear and selfishness. I hope your surgery went well and that you're recovering. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. I read the letter once, then placed it in a drawer without responding. Perhaps someday I would find it in my heart to acknowledge his remorse, but for now I was focused entirely on moving forward, not looking back. Today marked my first day back to full-time work, a milestone my doctors had once thought might take 6 months to reach. I had celebrated by buying flowers for my new apartment, a small luxury that reminded me I was building a life on my own terms. The apartment was nothing like the house Derek and I had shared. It was smaller, cozier, filled with color and light in ways our beige suburban home never had been. For the first time in my adult life, every decision from the turquoise couch to the gallery wall of local artists reflected only my taste, my preferences. Derek's parents still checked in regularly, their support having evolved into a genuine friendship independent of their son. We had dinner monthly, careful to avoid discussing Derek beyond necessary updates about the legal proceedings. You'll always be family to us, his mother had told me during a recent visit. If that's something you're comfortable with. I was surprisingly. Their kindness helped heal a wound I hadn't realized was still open. The most unexpected development in my recovery came from Dr. Thomas, the cardiac surgeon, who had performed my emergency procedure. He had checked on me personally throughout my hospital stay, his gentle manner and dry humor making the difficult days more bearable. When I returned for my 6-week follow-up, he suggested coffee after the appointment. Purely professional, of course, he'd added quickly. I have some resources for cardiac rehabilitation you might find helpful. That coffee led to lunch 2 weeks later and dinner the week after that. Dr. Thomas Alex, as I now called him, was divorced, dedicated to his patients, and refreshingly direct about his growing feelings for me. I know the timing isn't ideal, he'd said during our third dinner, and I understand if you're not ready, but I'd like to see where this could go whenever you feel ready to explore that possibility. His patience and understanding gave me space to heal, to rediscover who I was outside of my marriage and illness. We were taking things slowly, but for the first time since Derek's betrayal, I found myself opening to the possibility of trusting someone again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I reflected on the strange journey of the past year. I had lost so much: my marriage, my home, my sense of security, nearly my life. Yet sitting here now, heart beating strong and steady, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again so soon: genuine contentment. True love, I had learned, wasn't about grand gestures or passionate declarations. It was shown in the friend who slept in an uncomfortable hospital chair for weeks, the brother who put his life on hold to fight for me, the in-laws who chose compassion over blood ties, and the community that rallied around a stranger in need. The deepest betrayal had led me to the truest forms of love. The heart that Derek had deemed not worth saving had found its way to a fuller, richer life than I'd ever known before. I took a deep breath, feeling the smooth operation of lungs and heart, the simple miracle of being alive. Whatever came next, I would face it with this hard-won wisdom, the knowledge that even in our darkest moments, unexpected light can find its way in. Have you ever faced a betrayal that ended up leading you to something better? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes our worst moments become the doorways to our best lives. If my story touched you, please like and subscribe to hear more tales of survival and transformation. And remember, no matter how dark things seem, your story isn't over yet. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep your hearts open but your eyes wide.